short live stream, but I have to make this live stream. I feel the urge to do this. So when I'm led by the Holy Spirit, I'll just do what the Holy Spirit wants me to do. I'll make this live stream, and the subject will be skeletons in the closet, or British English skeletons in the wardrobe. Skeletons in the closet is more how the term is used in the United States, but skeletons in the wardrobe is how it's officially phrased. Um, so okay, I'll just wait till people come in. If you're here, let me know in the live chat, please, and let me know if you can hear me clearly. That's quite important. At the live stream today, it was interrupted by multiple interruptions. One of them was the YouTube streaming service wasn't working properly, so I ended up making a second live stream just to finish the message of the first one. And the message of the day was uh, honey traps. Don't fall for them. So watch them. And YouTube took down the first live stream because they thought because the uh, thumbnail they considered inappropriate for YouTube, but later I appealed it and it said it doesn't add up, so they put it back on. I know what's going on with YouTube these days. But okay. For those who are here, let me know in the live chat that you're here. Pure aim, thank you for being here. If the rest could also let me know if they're here, that would be great. Okay, I'll wait for another minute till people come in and people have shown themselves in the live chat. Then I can begin the teaching of this live stream. Prosi Boli, thank you for being here. Bosa, thank you for being here. Oh, Tosa, yes, thank you for being here. Okay, I'll just wait for another 30 seconds before I begin. Yeah, thank you all for being here tonight. For those who want to donate to this ministry, if you want, it's voluntarily. You can use a super chat, or you have my PayPal link also in the description, and as well as in the on my YouTube page at on the about page, you can see the YouTube donation link for your PayPal also. Everything that comes in, I will use for this ministry. All right. Good. Now in this live stream, I'm going to start with a short parable / story. And I want you to pay close attention to the story because that will be the lead for the teaching. So, okay. Let's say now you have a group of 10 youngsters. Those are university students. They go on a long holiday. They want to backpack for 2 months. So all of them have their backpacks. They've traveled from Argentina all the way by land to Chile. From Chile, they're going through Peru. They went to Ecuador. And in Ecuador, they arrive at this guest house. Okay, so they come there. They made the reservation online, so they arrive at the guest house. And one of the receptionists, a female, helps them out by showing the dorm. And this is a kind of a modern guest house, so there's even an elevator. And she tells them, whatever you do, don't go to the 10th floor. And then all the youngsters look at each other and was thinking, they were thinking, what? Why is she telling us not go to the 10th floor? Their dorm is on the 2nd floor, and they weren't even aware that there was a 10th floor. So why is this receptionist even mentioning the 10th floor to them? And she repeated again, whatever you do, don't go to the 10th floor. It's none of your business what goes on there. So she even accused them now of wanting to invade whatever's going on the 10th floor. So her two comments showed that there is something off with the 10th floor and there's something going on there that they're not allowed to see. And after that, she just went downstairs. And the next day, one of the youngsters asked the receptionist about the 10th floor. And because the youngster asked, ma'am, yesterday you told us about the 10th floor, we're not allowed to go there. And she couldn't remember anything. Now, what happened there? After staying at the guest house for a while, one of the youngsters realized, hold on a minute, this guest house is quite empty. So you have nine floors here in this guest house. The 10th one we're not allowed to come for some reason. So you have 9 floors. You have over, let's say, you have over 20 dorms here. Each dorm can take in at least 20 people. So around at least 400 till 500 people can stay in this guest house. And this is the holiday season, where a lot of people come to Ecuador for holidays. And there are many backpackers traveling throughout the year. So the youngsters realized, well, it's quite odd that this guest house is so empty. Then, in the third week that the youngsters realized they were the only ones in the guest house. They checked all the other floors and realized that all those dorms were empty. They opened some of the dorms and, wow, empty. There were like 4 private rooms that they couldn't enter, but they just listened and realized there was no sound. So eventually, the youngsters realized there's something creepy about this guest house. Then one of the youngsters felt in a radar they need to go to the 10th floor. And he says, guys, let's go to the 10th floor. And other ones was saying to him, are you crazy? Didn't that receptionist tell us we're not allowed to go there? And then the youngster tells him, listen, we confronted her the next day and she couldn't even remember that she told us not to go to the 10th floor. Don't you guys think it's weird? We're here 10 people in this guest house. Should have around 500 people in right now. It's the holiday season. So around this time, this guest house should be filled with guests. It's a guest house with good Wi-Fi, with good connection in Ecuador. It's one of the few luxury guest houses here that doesn't cost much. So how come this guest house so empty was one of the most modern guest houses here in Ecuador? And what is this with the 10th floor? We're not allowed to go there. Other realize that's true. By the way, we've paid to stay here, right? Okay, we still should abide by the rules, but hey, something's off here. I want to know what goes on. So the others said, okay, we'll go for just a moment. They took the elevator to the 10th floor and they opened it. At first, there was nothing off about the 10th floor, just a few dorms over there. So they opened some of the dorms, check around. Then one of the guys noticed this weird smell. And he told them, guys, come here. I've sensed this weird smell around here. In one of the dorms, they opened a wardrobe. And oh Lord, there were many skeletons in that wardrobe. So the youngsters went down, they called the Ecuadorian police, and the police came and shut down the place. Now, that was the story I was using as a lead into the teaching of today. The story just heard, it had several red flags in it that those youngsters didn't notice about. Please let me know in the live chat what those red flags are. Okay, let me know. I'll wait for 2 minutes till you guys give an answer. What were the red flags that those 10 youngsters missed? Let me know in the live chat. You know what? I'll wait 2 minutes. If after 2 minutes there's nothing, I'll just elaborate. But please let me know in the live chat. What were the red flags those 10 youngsters missed? I'll wait for your answers. Too quiet? Anyone else? I'll wait for another minute. Anyone else notice a red flag? Okay, there's nobody there. Okay, good. Did anyone else notice a red flag? 9 other floors. Good. I'll wait an extra 30 seconds because maybe someone else is typing, so I'll wait. All right. Good. Now, that one guy that told them, let's go to 10th floor to check out what goes on, he mentioned something quite interesting. What was it that he mentioned that was another red flag that they should realize, okay, something is off here? I'm just giving you another extra minute to think about it and just give me an answer. I'll just wait for a minute and I'll continue. The reason I'm doing this is because I want you to participate and to while you're listening to the live chat. Just what was it that the one guy said that they should have paid attention to? Mhm. Mhm. Yes, I can wait longer for the others, it's true. So, in the story I just told, the guy that realized, you know what, we need to go to 10 floor to check out what goes on. He mentioned something about the time period. What was it he mentioned? There should have been a red flag to those youngsters from the start. There are no dumb answers, okay? So don't feel embarrassed if you think I'm going to give a wrong answer. Mhm. Mhm. Yes, holiday season 2. Ah, yes, the smell. Okay. hmm I think we have enough answers now. And okay, so someone says too quiet, nobody, 9 other floors. You got holiday season 2, the smell. It ignored something was creepy indeed. Now, the number one red flag that should have alarmed them from the start was the fact that it was an hotel, a guest house with strong Wi-Fi, with good provisions, and it was cheap. That was the big red flag you have noticed. Because think about it. Ecuador was a third world country, a poor nation with a lot of crime. Okay? And many of the guest houses there were not that luxurious. And the luxurious guest houses, you had to pay a lot of dollars to just come in. So you have this guest house, which is one of the best in Ecuador. The price is quite cheap, yet they have the strongest Wi-Fi. That cheap price of that guest house was a red flag. You should thought, hold on a minute. If this guest house, if this guest house is so uh, of high quality, why is it that it asks such a low price for staying there? So let me recap a little bit. You had 10 youngsters that traveled all the way from Argentina, all the way upwards in South America. They arrived at Ecuador. There was this guest house they added in. The receptionist told them, don't go to 10th floor no matter what. It's none of your business what goes on there. The next day, the receptionist was even aware. She told them that empty. There's no one around. The floor, somebody was there. Then one of the guys said, let's go to the 10th floor to check out. They went there. It was also empty, but they noticed there was a smell over there. And there were skeletons over there. So there were ritual sacrifices being performed. But the thing was, the warning came in the price. The price was off already. But because the price was low to enter the guest house, the youngsters thought, hey, we have a budget and it's a very good guest house and it's quite cheap. Hey, let's go there. Often beneficial for the budget to go to a guest house is quite cheap. It is a cheap guest house, but it has good Wi-Fi, it has good provisions. But that should be the red flag. How come in a third world country? How come in a third world country in South America can you have such a luxurious guest house for such a low price? They should have said, you know what? Don't book that guest house. Something must be off there. But they were focused on the short-term benefit. Hey, we don't have to pay much to stay there. That's a short-term benefit indeed. But because they were so focused on the short-term benefit, they failed to see the bigger picture. So they now went to the guest house and they were trapped. Because here's the thing, this is what used to happen to the guest house. When guests would come, they would stay there, and after a while they would go missing. So many people went missing after staying at that guest house. So eventually, worldwide, a lot of backpackers were hinting one another in online fora and online social media, don't go to that guest house in Ecuador because a lot of people go missing after going to the guest house. Now, nobody was aware of the ritual murders were taking place. People realized something's off with the guest house. It's a cheap one, of high quality, and a lot of people go missing. Now, if it's cheap and of high quality, but they have a lot of guests, you can say, okay, but if many guests go missing, what goes on there? So those 10 youngsters almost died by staying at the guest house. Okay. So if that one guy didn't tell us check the 10th floor, they would never figure it out, and the next day they would have been finished. Now, in the story I told, it was obviously a trap, a setup. And the reason they didn't know this was a setup because they didn't look at the they didn't check the context of what was offered to them. And here's the thing. In daily life, in this life in general, you will encounter traps that are meant to hinder you or to take you out. Now, if you walk fully in the power of Christ, they can't take you out, but they will try and attempt anyway to hinder you and to bring you in unnecessary danger. And they will do that just to use you as a psychic shield for the bad stuff they're doing out there. So, the number one thing to examine is context. Whenever something attractive, it doesn't mean it's not attractive. If you're a backpacker and you have a budget and you want to stay at a cheap hostel, then a cheap hostel with good facilities is attractive to you. There's nothing wrong nor evil nor narcissistic about it. It's just a good offer to you. But look beyond the offer. Where is that guest house located? If it's located in Britain or it's located in Japan or somewhere in the United States, it will be different. If it's located in a third world country and it has such good facilities and it's a low price, then the fact is in a third world country should warn you something's off. Look, if you would go online and someone would sell a Ferrari to you for $200, you would think a Ferrari or a Lamborghini for $200. Come on, this is a hoax, man. He would click it away anyway. Why? Because it's way too unbelievable for you that such an expensive car is only sold for $200. Now it can be true, but then you would ask who in the right mind would sell a Ferrari or a Lamborghini that costs hundreds, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars for only $200 online. If someone does that, they're out of their mind and shouldn't take advantage of this, because if you do take advantage of this, it may backfire on me. Because let's say you have this mentally ill millionaire that is doing this, then he's out of his mind. If people take advantage of it, they will be looked bad at later on. So it's a trap anyway. So if someone would sell a Lamborghini or a Bugatti, you know this is a hoax. You won't even go into it. If someone online would offer you to purchase Los Angeles for like $800,000, you would say nobody can purchase a whole city where millions of people live. So you would think this is way too off. You would discard it. When something is way too off, your mind will go into a shock mode and you would oppose it, which is healthy, okay? Especially if the thing that's presented onto you is way off. But what happens is, in the world, is that things sometimes don't appear way off when it comes with a short-term advantage. Okay? There must be a short-term advantage for you that benefits you on a short term for you to be alert into it. Because here's the thing, if that hostel or if that guest house in that story I just told, if that guest house had a very high price, the youngsters would never even considered going there. It was only because the price was cheap and it benefited their budget that they considered it to be a valuable offer. So this is how it goes in the world. To hide the bad stuff people don't want to address, sometimes they will trick you into a silence agreement. Yes, what is a silence agreement or an agreement of silence? maybe they have other terms for this in American or British English, but I'm saying a silence agreement now, or an agreement of silence. What is a silence agreement? A silence agreement is an agreement in which you agree to keep your mouth shut about the bad stuff that are going on. And the reason you agree to keep your mouth shut is because you have the short-term benefit that you're dependent on. And the short-term benefit that you're dependent on is the leverage they have in keeping your mouth shut. So, whenever society has dirt that they want to hide, they will trick you into a silence agreement. That's what they will do. So, let me give an example. You may you may have this how I say, this youth gang that goes around committing burglaries, which is wrong. And let's say now that society, in the mainstream media, society tells you there are many street gangs going around doing this and that. This makes people angry. And now they tell you we need more police officers to help us solve crime. And let's say you have a lot of young men who don't have a job, think, hey, I don't have a job, so hey, if I work with the police, I may get a job. So within like 2 or 3 months, 4,000 new people join the police corps. And within less than a year, they're on the road doing work. Okay? So those police officers, new police officers, are new. They're the new blues on the street. But many of those new police officers realize, hold on, okay, there was a small buffer over there. Can you? Those new recruits are realizing, hold on a minute, we joined because we want to shut down the youth gangs. We were told in the media that there were so many youth gangs around. But now that we're patrolling the streets, there are like 2,000 of us new ones that joined. We don't see any youth gangs around. Most of the young men we see on the streets are just hanging around, smoke some cigarettes, or playing some video games on their mobile phone. And just tell them not to hang on the streets. That's the only thing that happens. We don't see an increase in drug dealing. We don't see an increase in prostitution. There's not even an increase in burglaries, because the amount of burglaries have even decreased by years. So now those new police officers are thinking, we joined the police corps because we wanted to help, we want to serve society by dealing with the youth gang problem. But now that we're police officers, realize that the youth gang problem doesn't even exist. So they were confused. They were thinking, what goes on there? But then there was one of those police officers that knew a journalist. One of his friends was a journalist that just graduated university. And this police officer told the journalist about this. And the journalist did his small investigation. And he figured out, hold on a minute, there are quite some missing persons reports past 5 years. And then the journalist tells the police officer, hey, Kevin, you joined the police corps because you wanted to help dealing with the youth gangs, right? You want to be an example to the youth and all of that, but listen, there has been no increase in youth gangs. There were like 2 youth gangs that dissolved because those guys grew up and they started families. So the last youth gang was active 6 years ago. And since 5 years, many young folks went missing. Many just disappeared. There are like 600 missing persons right now who has been missing for a long time. And then Kevin says, what? 600? And then the journalist, his friend, shows them all the files. These are the files of all these missing persons. Then the police officer thinks, oh my God, so many young people went missing? Come on now. And then the police officer, Kevin, goes to his police chief and says, sir, I joined the police corps because I want to serve my community. Okay, we catch a few bad guys, there are almost no youth gangs around. Here are 600 missing persons cases that haven't been investigated properly. Shall we do this? And then the police chief tells you, hold on, I'm going to talk to superior here soon. The police officer hears nothing about it. So then, that police officer, Kevin, informs all the other police officers that were newly recruited less than 2 years ago, and all of them realized it's quite suspicious. Why were they more murmuring and complaining about youth gangs in the media, even though there aren't actually any youth gangs around? Instead, you have a lot of people that go missing. And as if nobody talks about it, nobody even knows it goes on. Police officers decided to look into it on their own without permission from the superior. That was a buffer. The buffering is gone now. Can you all hear me and see me clearly? Can you all hear and see me clearly? Okay. It's Heavenly Father gave me this gift. Praise Him. But okay. So, they found out that anytime a detective hands in a report, the report goes missing for some weird reason, or the report ends up on a shelf and nobody looks at it. Okay? So, just like that's what I'm reflecting again, so that to the few seconds of buffering, you didn't miss anything. So then those police officers realized it. They file in a complaint at the Minister of Justice of the state. They're saying, sir, the police corps around here are covering up many missing persons cases. We are recruited for the last 2 years. We are here to serve and protect. We mean it. And we notice that there are so many people that go missing, but nobody's doing anything about it. And what happens now is that those police officers receive a warning not to meddle in the investigation, or else they could be prosecuted and can go to jail. So Kevin, who was the one that figured this out with the So, despite all the buffering, I'll keep making this live stream. I'll complete it. I'll almost done with the live stream, so bear with me, believers. So Kevin left the police corps because he realized how corrupt it was. But here's what was going on. The community was bringing blood sacrifices. The community had anger and all types of issues they didn't want to face, and they wanted to have scapegoats. So it often happens that the community, not the satanic organization, but the community, would commit blood sacrifices. They would meditate and murmur about people so long, and one of them would do the dirty job. And then when the police comes, the higher ups in society would realize, ooh, this is the public that killed someone. Let's keep this quiet. So the public had relief by shutting down the lives of many of their own. And that's why everything remained calm. And was committing a lot of blood sacrifice. They came up with this hoax that there are so many youth gangs harassing the neighborhoods around. Okay? So, in a second story I gave on to you, it's obvious from the start that something was off. And there's another thing, red flag that those new recruits should have noticed before they enrolled in the police. They enrolled in the police because they were so angered by the so many youth gangs around. But what was the number one red flag they should have considered before even thinking about joining the police? Let me know in the live chat. So I'm going to wait for 2 minutes. Just elaborate in your mind on the story I told about the police recruits, and what was the number one red flag they should have seen. Before I command every disturbance of this live stream to catch fire and burn to ashes right now in Christ Jesus' mighty name. Praise the Lord. The question was, what was the one red flag that those recruits should have noticed about the situation before they even consider joining the police? That's what I ask. Collective silence. I'll wait for more answers. There are no wrong answers, okay? So just tell me what you think it is. I'm gonna elaborate on it after I get some answers from you. I got one on Dion. The rest. What do you think like was that those recruits missed before they joined the police corps? Remember, it was that there was so much youth gang violence, and they wanted to stop it by joining the police. Doesn't matter if you miss some context. I'm going to elaborate on it anyway. So, does anyone else have an idea what the red flag was they've missed? Mm-hmm. Okay. Just 30 seconds, then I'll finish, then I'll elaborate on it. Police accounts and youth kings. No, not really, but you're getting close. Collective silence, that's also part of it. Okay, let me elaborate. So, free from authority figures, composition of the force. Okay, I'm going to elaborate on it now. So, in the story, there was a lot in the media. There was a lot of complaining about the youth kings, haunting around, causing harm, doing burglaries, all of that. No, no, doesn't. Marcy T, you're getting close. Okay, so you're not wrong. I'm just elaborating now. So okay. I youth gang as one. So the normal question should be where are all those youth coming from? If there's so many youth gangs, where are the youth coming from? They must come from the community, right? So where are the parents? Where are the social workers? Where are the schools? Okay? They didn't ask those questions. So why was it? Why was it that they suggested that they need more police officers? If you need more police officers, why were they complaining for it all the time that youth gangs were increasing? So the context in which the call for more police officers was presented was suspicious. So in this case, those young men, they got employed. That was a short-term benefit. They had jobs, and they had respect from the community because they were police officers, and they had some privileges as police officers. So those young men that joined believed that they were doing the right thing by assisting to help society deal with those youth gangs. But before they even joined the police force, they should ask themselves, why wasn't anything done about it before? Couldn't anyone see this coming? And it's one thing I want you to learn. For example, about something that goes on in the community, okay, they're complaining. But why are they complaining about it now? The timing you need to think about. Because something's about to come out. That's going to be shocking. That's why they mentioned it. They hoaxed it to trick people in. Yes, Mars City, you know, let me say, your name is Chris, right? Anyway, Mars City, you're telling that you're correct here. Um, they knew it would be a backlash. They backed off before it went too far. They wanted some toxicity. And here's the thing. They recruited all those new police officers so that when So that when the public will begin to ask, what happened to all those people that went missing? Now they could say, hey, we have a lot of police officers, they're working very hard. So now the people will look at the police as the reason why the cases aren't solved. But now you have thousands of new police officers that joined, and now they're the ones carrying the weight to figure out what happened. So those new police officers are really the scapegoats so that the community could continue their blood sacrifices at ease. Mhm. That's how it goes out there. Whenever a problem is presented to the public by society, the problem is presented as a distraction. Even if the problem is something real that goes on, that doesn't matter. When it's presented by society to the public, it's a distraction. Society, I'm saying those, the mainstream media, those that are leading society, they want sympathy from the public for the problem. And once people have sympathy for the problem, now they want something to be done about it. And then a solution is provided for what has to be done about it. But that solution serves to cover up the real thing that they don't want people to discuss. So every society has skeletons in the closet, in the wardrobe, or skeletons in the closet, however you want to say it. Every society has stuff that they know they can't justify, and they have pollution that they don't want to face. So every society will come up. Every society will come up with some type of problem that needs to be solved. And they want you to participate in the solution they provide. But the solution they provide is for a problem that either does not exist or the problem cannot be solved with the solution they're offering. So if you decide to participate in what they consider a solution, you're actually participating in a cover-up unaware. Most people don't even look that far to realize that whatever is offered as solution doesn't add up. So, whenever you encounter people complaining about something that goes on in the community, if it's trash on the streets that keeps on lingering over there, and it's been going on for almost 10 years, why are they complaining about it now? They're not, because now there are many tourists coming, and the tourists are noticing it, and tourists are talking about it, and now the people out there are receiving a bad reputation. That's why they're complaining about it now. So now they need a scapegoat to why there's so much trash around there. Instead of facing there as a community, just were neglectful, have low self-esteem, and because they didn't care much about how trees look like. And now that foreigners, as tourists come and keep talking about it, they need to blame it under the mafia or on some other criminal groups or on whoever or on some homeless people, just that their skeletons are not seen. So, most of the time in the world, when people are upset, when they begin to, when they are escalating about something, it's not the thing that they're upset with that's really the issue. The issue is the thing they're upset with was never meant to be noticed. Because once that thing they're upset about is noticed, other things about them will be noticed that they cannot account for. So let's say you have a lot of sexually loose women in a community. Let's say it happens a lot in a community. Thank you for the super chat, Pure Aim. Thank you very much. It's very well appreciated. Let's say now there's a lot of sexually loose women in a community. And those sexually loose women are just a very tiny percentage of the female population, let's say maybe 5 or 6%. But in total, they cause embarrassment to the community. Because not only are they dressing in a very odd sexually provoking way, they're also sleeping, sexing all over the place, in the streets, at the car wash, at bank. in the church, everywhere they spread their legs, everywhere they are ready to just sleep around. And they attract a lot of guys from other places who use drugs and all of that, and they're not even getting paid. So they're out, holding themselves out without being paid. So this is something that the community is quite embarrassed about. Okay? Hold on. Let's say now that one day one of those thoughts around begin to make a lot of pictures and put it on Instagram. And let's say the others begin to do it also. Now people in the community become upset with all those narcissistic women making selfies. Now you have this whole boycott of the selfie culture. So now a lot of people from that community, they want the selfie culture to stop. But hold on a minute. People have been making a lot of selfies for like more than a decade. So it has nothing to do with selfies. Why they're upset with the whole selfie culture? It is because those thoughts that are roaming around, the selfies they're making all the time, is revealing something about the community. Namely, their daughters are out of line because they, as a community, are out of line. Because then people can ask if there are quite some women from that area that are so out of line, what's wrong with those people that those women, those girls end up that way? Then when people look closer, they will see, oh, a lot of the men are quite effeminate. They just want to avoid life. A lot of the men prefer to gamble or smoke weed or go to the club instead of being there with their families. Oh, and the local churches are enabling this. Oh, now all of the skeletons in the wardrobes are coming out. So now people from that community become so angry with the selfie culture. They're like at war with the selfie culture. Why? Not because they hate social media, because they use it all the time, not because there's anything wrong with making selfies. It is because their anger against the quote unquote selfie culture is just a front, so nobody can see through what they're really upset about. They're upset about their trash being exposed. So now they have a substitute target to put their anger upon, so that everyone thinks that it's that thing that they're attacking that's bothering them. But the thing they're attacking is not really what bothering them at all. They're not bothered by what they're attacking. They are not bothered by what they are attacking. They're bothered that their skeletons, their wardrobes are being exposed. So they need to be upset with something else together so that everyone will be dragged by the thing they're attacking. So that is important to remember, believers. Whenever the public is outraged about something, it's 99% of the time it's not the thing that they're outraged about that's really upsetting them. It's the fact that the thing they're outraged about is reflecting something else within them that has to be addressed, but that they haven't addressed. So do not be distracted by what the public is enraged about. For example, in Europe, in most places, you're not aware to wear a swastika. Not as a tattoo, not as a decoration. You're just not allowed to use swastikas. And swastikas are used in Asia as a Buddhist symbol. But as a Buddhist in Europe, you have freedom of religion, but you're not allowed to use a swastika. You know why? Because people would say, hey, it's because of what it's because what Nazi Germany did to the Jews. That's why you're not allowed to use swastikas. But then you point out swastikas are used all the time in Asia, and those people have nothing against Jews, nor do they intend genocide, whatever. What goes on? And it's already more than 7 decades ago. So what's going on? People say you just don't use a swastika. Why are people so upset with using swastika? None of the people that are alive now went through what happened in the Second World War. They may have distant relatives that went through it, but they didn't. And it was not the swastika that killed those people, it were other people that killed those people. Okay? So why are they so upset with the swastika? Let me tell you why. Because the swastika was used as a symbol of enlightenment by the Nazis. We know that. But the Nazis killed many of their own people. So the moment you get, so the swastika reminds them collectively that many of their own were self-destructive. And they don't want to face this. So you have many, so because they belong to the West. And they're not like those people from Africa or the African diaspora. So it's this pride that makes them feel bonded together, and this is what they're protecting. Because they don't want to face the reprobation amongst their own ancestors, and that's amongst them at the moment. So that's why they are fighting the use of swastikas or neo-Nazi symbolism, just that they don't have to deal with the generational afflictions that are afflicting them. Mhm. Yes, they're deflecting. 99% of the time, when the public is upset about something or someone, it's something else that they're hiding. Now, look, sometimes they're legitimately upset with someone because of something that individual has done. But even then, the way they relate to it, they just want to deflect everything on that individual so nobody realizes them. So when a serial killer is caught, people focus on, oh, the bad guy is caught. They begin to clap their hands. Law enforcement did a job. We are free from that monster. Okay, but where did the monster come from? The monster comes from your own community. So you guys as a community brought forth that monster. Why don't you guys address that? No, he's the monster. He's been caught. He's rotting in prison. Or he gets the death penalty. Case over. So even when they are upset about the serial killer, it's more because the serial killer forced them to self-reflect. Mhm. So understand the following, believer. All society, anyone who's a threat to them hiding their pollution becomes their enemy. And that's the number one reason why worldlings want enemies. Worldlings want enemies. Why do they want enemies? Because when you have an enemy, you can excuse your 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 own violence that you pretend is attacking you. You can now defend yourself and unload all your darkness on that individual. That's why in the world they love to have enemies. That's why you have to say and keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Why would you keep people that intend harm on you closer to you? That doesn't end up. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Hold on a minute. It should be keep your enemies far and keep your friends as close as possible. Why do they say in the world, keep your friends close and your enemies closer? What is that? That whole saying is retarded. Let me tell you what that saying is about. Your friends are there, that's fine. But if you keep enemies close, you don't have an excuse to attack someone. You can always play the victim as if you're under attack by that so-called enemy, and now you can unload all your darkness. Everyone will be focused on the enemy that's fighting you, instead of realizing, hold on a minute. Um, you expect love from the community, but are you willing to reciprocate what the community does for you? Because they don't want to be under investigation, they want enemies to fight. And the this is the pathological urge of worldlings that the mainstream media, as well as the pagan corporations, as well as pagan Christianity, is taking advantage of. If there is no enemy, that will provide an enemy to the public. Because once the public has an enemy, they are at ease because they know we're not going to be questioned. For example, you had the Yorkshire Ripper, which was the serial killer from England that killed quite some white women and some colored women also. Here's the thing: that guy could have been caught far earlier. Why did they allow him to remain on the loose like that? It was because Britain was going through a decline, financial economic decline at the time. Britain was not that dominant empire anymore, and the public wasn't able to deal with the fact they were in decline. So because they were in decline, and people were outraged about the decline, people were losing jobs, some people became homeless, all of that. Now, because of the homelessness and the loss of jobs, the amount of prostitutes increased because a lot of women had to survive one way. And the British government was not able to provide properly for their own British people, even though the British, they can't even provide for their own people in a crisis. So this was the embarrassment Britain was going through. But at the same time, you had this Yorkshire Ripper out there killing a lot of a lot of vulnerable women. So people thought, hey, we need to catch this bad guy. People were so traumatized by this killer on the loose that they forgot that their country was in decline. So what was really going on that upset the people wasn't really the Yorkshire Ripper. It was the fact that there was a decline they didn't want to face. And they didn't have to face the decline because they had this distraction, the Yorkshire Ripper over there. But when the distraction came to obvious distraction, they captured the guy. So the authorities allowed this serial killer to remain on the loose to make more victims just to distract the millions in Britain who would otherwise lose their minds against the fact that the world in decline. Someone asked, Dion here asks, how do we address the silence? Well, actually, you don't really address the silence. You notice it and you register it. Notice the silence and register it. And once you've noticed the silence and you registered it, now look around. So you notice and register the silence. So it's there. Then you look around. So everyone is silent about a certain thing. And they're very loud about other stuff. Oh, they're silent about this thing. And check for yourself what it is they're really silent about. And once you figure it out, now you know how to navigate in that community. Now you know which subjects to avoid and which people to avoid also. Yes, Esther, this is how it is. Is keep, hold on. Keep a scapegoat in your life is keep your enemies closer. That's really what it comes down to. The world wants its victims to be close because anytime they're frustrated, anytime they need to face themselves, but they want to, anytime there's contention, they want to unload freely on the victims. So they want to keep the victims close, and the victims are the enemies. The victims often don't even intend harm on them. Victims are often not even able to cause harm, but they need the victims there to make them into an enemy so they can be at ease with their friends. That's how society and the world operates. Mhm. That's how they do it. So, believer, when it comes to cold cases, I already explained it in another live chat. Cold cases don't exist. Those are just cases people don't want to be solved because once they're solved, a lot of things are exposed. And if they're solved suddenly after 2 decades or 3, it's just to cover up the scandal from the young people. Because some cold cases are discovered by later generations, and people are going to ask, why is nobody caught yet? So if it's less than 30 years, suddenly they find the perpetrator. They already knew who the perpetrator was. They just waited for so long to capture the guy, or to wait till the guy passed away so that things won't come out because they know if they would capture the guy may open his mouth about other stuff in the community, so they let the guy go. Do not be fooled, believers. Look, there are people out there who really don't know what goes on. They're clueless. There are clueless people out there, okay? But most people sense and they know very well something is off, and some of them know what goes on, but they just want to get the acceptance of society. So, what do? You notice it, you register it, and you look around. Look around. And just as I explained in the previous live streams of today, ask constructive questions about whatever goes on. Look, if Eric, let's say you have this guy called Eric, and Eric is assaulted by a guy in the community, and the guy is arrested. When the guy is arrested, the police may ask him, why did you knock the guy out? And the perpetrator, the defendant will say, hey, he was annoying. Nobody likes him. The police ask him, nobody likes him. Well, everyone's talking bad about him, and nobody wants him around, blah, blah, blah. Once the defendant is caught, the defendant will talk. So often, when the defendant does a crime, the people turn on the defendant. Why? Everyone around hated Eric. Everyone was stomping on Eric and scapegoating Eric. But because this one guy thought he could get away with actually doing the attack on Eric, now the community turns on him because the fact that he felt so comfortable doing the attack would show that there was a consensus for his action. And if there's a consensus for his action, it means that the public is one giving the consensus. So to hide the consensus that the public had against Eric, they now turn on the defendant. Mhm. So when the public turns on the perpetrator, it's not always because they're good people, they're finally happy that the bad guy's been punished. Often it is the function. Okay? So now you understand why the Heavenly Father does not intervene often in the world. He intervenes in the lives of believers, and the believers in turn can intervene in the world. But the Heavenly Father often does not intervene in the world because the Heavenly Father knows those people don't want to comply with solutions, they don't want to be addressed, and they'll play the victim, they'll escalate when they're forced to comply with justice. So the Heavenly Father will not cast his pearls before swine, so we will not intervene just to enable their dumping. That's why we as believers, we intervene on behalf of the Heavenly Father, and if they resist us, we shake the dust off our feet and we continue. Mm. And that's the thing with communal blood sacrifice. Everyone is against the target, but nobody really lays their hand on the target. They hope that some weakling amongst them does the dirty job so that they all can turn on the weakling just to avoid the fact that they were the ones getting relief from having an individual killed or harmed. Sometimes they turn on a target just to get relief, and when a target is harmed, they will turn on the perpetrator, and then they will give false comfort to the victim, which was really their victim, because that individual only attacked the victim because there was a kind of contention against against the victim. So they are the victimizers that generated this climate of contention against and when others felt comfortable attacking the victim, now they turn on the attackers, and now they want to appear like the good guys, helping out, rescuing the victim. It's a thing that often happens, more than you're aware of. Look, there are people who really want to help the victim. Those exist. Those are good people. But in general, in society, when people help out the victims, often to cover themselves, cover their own behind. Amen. So, that is what I want to share in this live stream. So, all societies have skeletons in the wardrobe or skeletons in the closet. You don't have to address them directly, but take note of them, pay attention, and make sure you subtly warn other people about it. Whilst if they're open to be warned. If they're not open, then it's not on you. Well, that's it for now. Keep on agreeing with Christ, believers. Thank you for watching, and be at peace.